morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I am here to tell you I was right. Now, that is incredibly disingenuous of me. You see, ladies and gentlemen, I wasn't right. My lovely Japanese source, who I'm afraid will remain anonymous, was right. I told you about a couple of cards a week or so ago now that were going to be coming shortly. Now, I've actually told you about 6 cards in total. 2 of them have now been confirmed. They are coming, they are official, and we need to have a chat now we know that they are confirmed. One of them is Quick Ball, that's pretty obvious. The other one, well, it's actually translated by Google Translate as Shinka, which doesn't make a huge amount of sense. So I went to my favourite person currently living in Japan, Antoine Boulet, and I went, hey, what's it called? And he went, Evolution Incense. And I was like, oh, lovely. They are here, they are confirmed, and they are huge. They are game-changing cards. They will single-handedly, and I know that's a weird phrase to use when there's 2 of them, but these 2 cards together, without any help from anybody else, will transform the metagame. And no, that is not an exaggeration. These 2 cards will make it so that non-GX decks are all of a sudden viable again. You see, when we look at evolution decks at the moment, we look at things like Naganadel and Quagsire that go, well, look, for Naganadel, it's a psychic type, we can use Mysterious Treasure. For Quagsire, we'll play Pokemon Communication and cross our fingers. And then the deck ends up not quite being as consistent as we would like, and it's not quite good enough. Now, for those that didn't watch the original video, or those that may have forgotten, a quick reminder: Quick Ball lets you discard a card from your hand, search your deck for a basic Pokemon, and put it into your hand. Now, that was what my Japanese source told me it did, and Antoine Boulet has confirmed this morning that my Japanese source was very much correct. That's what it allows you to do. So that's kind of nice. And this is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Now, it's kind of Nest Ball and it's kind of not. You see, Nest Ball didn't make you discard a card from your hand. It just searched for a basic. But the thing is that Nest Ball put them straight onto the bench. And going straight onto the bench is actually a pain in the, family podcast, neck. A pain in the neck. Because you don't get coming into play abilities. I mean, the biggest and most relevant one at the moment we're looking at is Dedenne. We love Dedenne. You play it onto the bench, and then you scrap your hand and draw 6 cards. We could look at the Mewtwo that came around in Unbroken Bond, whereby when you put it onto the bench, you get to search your discard pile for a supporter card and put it on top of your deck. Coming into play abilities are big. And you don't get them with Nest Ball. You do get them with Quick Ball. As a side note, Quick Ball is like 1 billion times cooler than Nest Ball. Just as a Pokeball, I went there. Best Pokeball, incidentally, hands down, no question. So my point here is that yes, you got to discard a card from your hand, and that's kind of a pain, but actually it's a small price to pay for getting your coming into play abilities back. Plus, there's cards like Malamar and Naganadel that want to have energy in the discard so that they can accelerate them, and there's cards like Zoroark from Team Up that does more damage for each Pokemon in your discard, or Alolan Exeggutor that does more damage for each energy in your discard. There's plenty of reasons we want to discard cards. And given that we've all been playing Ultra Ball, well, we had been until it rotated, for years, and that made us discard 2 cards from our hand, and we're all going to start playing Great Catcher now, which makes us discard 2 cards from our hand, I really don't think many of us are going to be terribly upset at discarding 1 card from our hand. I think we will cope just fine, thank you very much. Now, Evolutionary Incense searches for an evolution card. Simple as that. Now, this is the one where, when my Japanese source told me about it, I was slightly apprehensive. And the reason is, it's just Professor Elm's training method. Like, it is literally an item version of an old supporter card. And generally speaking, that doesn't happen. We get cards like Professor Oak, which turns into a supporter card from an item card. Although, weirdly enough, Professor Oak, it was just scrap your hand and draw 7 cards. And it did actually come back as a supporter card, but it came back as Professor Juniper, and it came back as Professor Sycamore, and it is currently in the process of coming back as Professor Magnolia, but it never actually came back as Professor Oak. Seems a little bit unfair. My point is, we've seen item cards, or trainers as they were, turn into supporters. We don't see it the other way round. But it's exactly what it does. It lets you get any evolution Pokemon. Now there's going to be the odd deck like Night March that could, for instance, use it to search out Trumbeak, though I don't think you'd find room for this in a Night March deck. But generally speaking, what you're going to do now is just play 4 Quick Ball and 4 Evolutionary Incense and go, right, let's do this, let's go and search out whatever we want to. It's kinda lovely, and there's no downside here. There's no discard a card from your hand, none of that garbage, it's just search for an evolution Pokemon. In a pinch, this would even combo quite nicely with Pokemon Communication, such that you would be able to search a card out with Evolutionary Incense, and then swap it for a basic using Pokemon Communication. It's awkward, but it works. And there's no caveat here, there's no downside. It's not like Cherish Ball, which only searches out GX Pokemon. It just searches out any evolution Pokemon whatsoever. I suppose there's a downside that it won't get basics, but you know what I mean, ladies and gentlemen. You know what I mean. And these 2 cards together, genuinely, this is not an exaggeration, fill me with hope for the future of the format. You see, I'm a man that likes playing non-GX decks, and partly it's because I don't want to spend lots of money on GXs that tend to be quite expensive. Partly it's because I tend to play a lot of different decks, and if you do get all the GXs, that gets very expensive very quickly. And partly it's that I like trying to find weird, dumb, underplayed decks and make them my own, and they tend to be non-GX decks. So, I mean, if we take a look at Cosmic Eclipse, for instance, we've got Excadrill, Alolan Ninetales, and Steelix. And they are the 3 decks that really do make me happy. As a side note, Excadrill works best when there are 3 or fewer cards left in your deck. Then you're doing 180 for 1 energy. Otherwise, it's 120 for 1 energy, and discard the top 3 cards of your deck. And the problem is that Belelba and Bryson Man comes in, and it really is a huge, huge issue. It might make Excadrill unplayable. Plus, Mewtwo and Mewdex are all teching in Macargo at the moment, which is also like a proper job hard counter to Excadrill. But ignoring all of that for a minute, if we look at these 3 decks, you can see why these 2 cards are so gosh darned important. So if we take Steelix, the good news is Steelix has a retreat cost of 4, and we've got Onix that has a retreat cost of 4, so we can use Pokemaniac to search them out. The problem is Pokemaniac is a supporter card, so any turn that you play Pokemaniac, you are not then being able to play any kind of draw supporter. So you can search out these Pokemon. And to be fair, Steelix does 50 damage for each Pokemon with a retreat cost of exactly 4 you discard from your hand. But it's only really searchable using Pokemaniac, which means you've either got to muck around with Lieutenant Surge to play 2 supporters per turn, or you are essentially locked into supporter searching, which is super awkward. But that's the best one of the 3. If you look at Excadrill and Alolan Ninetales, they don't really have much, like, at all. You've got Professor Elm's Lecture, but the problem with Professor Elm's Lecture is it only grabs Pokemon with 60 HP or less. And the problem is that if we look at Drillbur, there is no 60 HP Drillbur. We've got the one from Unified Minds with 70 HP, and we got the one from Cosmic Eclipse with 70 HP. So okay, you can go and find yourself the Alolan Vulpix from Ultra Prism, which is probably the one you'll play, and you can use Professor Elm's Lecture for your Alolan Ninetales deck, but you're not using it for Excadrill, because there is no 60 HP Drillbur. So all of a sudden we're left with Professor Oak's setup, But that says you can only get Pokemon with 3 different types. Now the good news is Ditto Prism Star, that you can only play 1 in your deck, and if that's prized, gutted. But even then, you can grab 1 fairy or fighting Pokemon that you want, 1 Ditto and 1 other. You cannot get 2 Drillbur and a Ditto Prism Star, or 2 Alolan Vulpix and a Ditto Prism Star. So even when you're using supporters to search them out, it still isn't good enough. And you're not able to play draw supporters as well. But after kind of turn 1, you're left with Pokemon Communication. And if you don't have a Pokemon in hand, Pokemon Communication's not as good. It is inherently unreliable. And that is the best we've had so far. A combination of Professor Round's Lecture / Pokemaniac / Professor Oak setup, and then Pokemon Communication. And if you add in Quick Ball and Evolutionary Incense, all of a sudden you've got 4 item cards to search your basics, 4 item cards to search your evolutions, and you should be able to set up. Now you can add in something like Pokemon Communication as well, or some Professor Round's Lecture for turn 1, and now it's actually working. I love these cards. They are both flat out, no question, undeniable 5 WOSI cards, and I don't think it's particularly close. These are phenomenal cards that are going to completely and utterly change the game, and I love them. But I'd like to know what you think, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And if anyone's wondering why I did this video after talking about the cards previously, before they were rumours and we didn't have the images, now we know for certain. I've had a bit more time to think, and we do have the images, so anyone searching around, looking around the channel, I think there needs to be a video here where we go, look, now they're confirmed. Cool. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Go nuts, be nice, and then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.